Okay, let us begin. Hi everybody, my name is Des. I'm up in Kettering and I'm running the first half of the training today. If you've been on one of these before, then you'll know if you got any questions throughout, then pop them in the chat box and co-host Helen will be compiling them into a list for us at the end. If you have any technical issues, check also make a note in there as well. So I'm Des, I'm up in Kettering, or down in Kettering, depending where in the country you are. And I've also got Tom here as well, who's a professional editor. So you're all muted, and again, with questions, put those in the chat box. So to get the most out of this training, you will need a smartphone, which I'm guessing you've all got because you've come onto this training. There are a few videos in the training. They were created on an iPhone, but the same functions are available on smartphones that use the Android OS. However, specific commands and applications will be different. Also, older iPhones may have different functionality or features than later models, but they'll all still work fine. So your smartphone's amazing. You can film videos on a phone in your pocket and do what once would have needed hugely expensive equipment and specialist knowledge. So they're astonishing bits of kit. However, talking to voters on the doorstep is what wins us seats. Videos and social media are very much a nice to have, but are not as effective as target to win. They're very much the icing on the cake. So there's going to be 4 sections in this training. Set up your phone, which will include putting it onto airplane mode, enabling grid lines, which is going to talk about eye lines, lighting and sound. Recording the video, so keeping it still, looking at the lens and practicing what to say. We're going to talk about why you're making the video, so the types of video content, are you making it for social media and subtitles, and then editing and Instagram will be handled by Tom. So you should come out of this with at least a few tips on how to make good videos, but what we are not including, we're not going to be talking about live streaming on social media, and we're not going to go really in depth with editing. So first up, there's a little bit of techie stuff here, but it's important to get it out of the way at the start. So putting your phone on airplane mode, it stops your filming being interrupted. I was set up filming my friend who was running a half marathon. I was waiting for him to run down a woodland path, and I've been waiting ages for him. And just as he rounded the corner, my mum rang me, and of course I couldn't ignore a call from my mum. So always remember to put your phone on airplane mode. To do this, and also the second thing is, just to explain, there's going to be a little explainer video on how to do this after some of these slides. The second thing important is grid lines. So they help you compose your shots better, line up eye lines, and there's something called the rule of thirds, which I'll demonstrate in the video, which is here.
It's very important to put your phone in airplane mode when you're recording video. This prevents things like phone calls interrupting the recording. To do this on an iPhone, you can pull down with 2 fingers from the top on later models and put the airplane on. On older models, you pull up from the bottom, or you can go into settings and turn airplane mode on here. The second thing is, when you go into your camera, you can enable grid lines, which help with composition, and there's something called the rule of thirds. To do this, go into settings, search for your camera, and enable grid lines. You can see then, when you go into your camera, you have grid lines enabled. So this helps with things like eye lines. So this is a flyer that I had done for me, and you can see that the photographer lined up my eyes with one of the lines. Secondly, here's a group shot with all 3 of us in. You can see that Sarah's eyes have been lined up and we are all equally spaced. To enable airplane mode on an Android device, swipe down from the top and put the airplane on. To enable grid lines, go into the camera, hit settings, hit more, and scroll to grid lines. There you go. Bear in mind that there are lots of different versions of Android, so this may be different depending on your version.
Onto lighting. So you need to make sure that you have plenty of light when you are filming. So ensure that the sun or the light source is not behind the person or the scene you're shooting, as they'll be in silhouette. Ideally, the light source should be above you, but can be behind the camera, but be aware of shadows in shots. Natural light works better. However, when filming outside, try not to end up squinting into the camera. So it's important to make sure you can see the face of the person you're recording.
Regarding lighting, you need to make sure that the person you're filming's face can be seen. For example, if I move in front of my window, you'll see that you can no longer see my face because of the backlight. So make sure you know where the light source is coming from. So I'm making two mistakes right now. Number one, I'm sat in front of my fridge and you're wondering what all this is, which is distracting away from what I'm saying. And number two, as you can hear, my washing machine is on its spin cycle. This is not great for audio, and ideally you want to be recording in a quiet environment with an uncluttered background.
So regarding the background, you want to try and film in front of an uncluttered background so as not to distract from the speaker. And the quieter the sound surroundings, the better. If you have to shut yourself away for a while, then do so. If filming outside, be aware of traffic noise, and it's much easier to fix a video with cuts than it is to fix sound.
This is a better location. There's no distractions in the background, and my washing machine is finished, so it's a lot quieter.
So with regard to recording your video, personally, I film in landscape, so that means to hold the phone sideways or horizontally, so cinema style. But do make sure that you film whatever you're filming is central, so that you can crop it into a square if needed for Instagram. And you need to keep the camera still, so you can lean it against something, or if there's nothing available to lean it against, then you can hold it with two hands to minimise the shake. But be careful not to press any side buttons. If you've got a camera tripod already, you can get smartphone holders which have a standard tripod fitting.
Personally, when filming, I always film in landscape, because even if you need to edit the video for Instagram or to make it square, you can zoom in to fill the screen. So when you're filming, you want to try and keep your phone as still as possible. So use both hands, or if you can find something to lean against, hold it there. Be careful, of course, not to obstruct the microphone or press any of the buttons accidentally.
So, talking about the camera itself, so you want to try and look into the lens when you're being filmed. Don't look at the screen if it's facing you, or at the person behind the camera, or even if you're at the person next to you, if you're sort of being interviewed side by side. Try and look into the lens. You want the camera at the same level as your eyes, so imagine you're talking to someone the same height as you. And also, what are you going to be saying? Personally for me, if I write it down, it can help me remember what to say, but don't worry, it's rare to get it right first time, and it can take several takes. Unless you're one of those amazing people who can just start talking and get it right first time, it's good to practice what you want to say in advance. If you have a long statement, you can maybe get a friend to hold up the words next to the camera, but again, you've got to keep focused on the camera lens. And relax. Try not to sound like you're reading from a script. Speak naturally and relax. Also, you will get used to seeing yourself and hearing yourself, even though it is really strange to start with.
Something else to be aware of is to look into the camera lens. Now on most phones, if you've got the screen facing away from you, they're pretty easy to see. But if you've got the screen facing towards you, it can look strange if you're looking at the screen rather than at the lens. But the lenses are very small and hard to see on newer phones. So on here, it's just there. It's an iPhone X. Usually they're by the speaker grill. The other thing is, if you're recording, if you've got a lot to say, you may need a little bit of a script. It's always good to practice what you're going to say first. What I've done in the past is blue tacked it to the tripod, but of course that looks strange because you're sort of and then saying it and then going back and forth. If you've got a helper that can hold it up next to the camera lens, that'd be perfect. But of course, be aware that any paper rustling may be picked up by the microphone.
You can tell that I didn't actually practice saying that the second half of that before I started. So, why are you making a video? Why is it for? These are some of the things that I've made videos for in the past. And I first started making videos last year for the general election because in Kettering we're running a Target to Win seat, but we didn't want to spend money on leaflets as it's a very safe Tory seat. So I created a video of the parliamentary candidate for Facebook and Twitter. So if you're doing an event, if you're filming an event such as a litter pick or a protest, that's really good. But do make sure that you've got time to edit the video after the event, because the longer it is before you put it out there, the fewer shares and engagement it will have, because photos and articles about the event could make it out onto social media before you get the chance. News. So that's a video that I did for a planning application, which is a local outrage issue. Nobody knew about it until we broadcast the video, so it gives me plenty of time to allow, to get the shoot out there, to do the shoot, to plan it, to edit it, and there was no timescales on that, which was good. Fourthly, if you've ever been interviewed on the radio or on TV, they usually allow you to stream the interviews or stream the programs afterwards for, I think on BBC it's like 30 days. If you use screen recording, you can either screen record on your phone or on your computer, you can then edit that into a video. In this one I've put photos over the top of it, but that's a really easy way of just getting some content for free if you've been interviewed on the radio. And this is a quite good one. Now at the moment, a lot of councils are doing Zoom meetings, which they're live streaming on YouTube, and then you can allow them, and then they'll be up on YouTube for you to view back. Now again, if you screen record, you can, and you do a speech, you can record your speech and then put that out as content. As a side note, speaking at virtual meetings is a great way to ease members into addressing the council if they're nervous. It's much less pressure than the formal setting of a council chamber, with councillors sort of staring at you in real life. There will be a link in the notes afterwards of information on how to do screen recording, and you can do it on your Android, you can do it on iPhone and Mac and PC. So you want to keep your videos short and snappy because they need to be interesting if you want more people to watch it. For social media especially, you want to try and capture people's attention within the first 10 seconds. This is a video I put up, and although it says, the stats gave us that it was nearly 2,000 views, you can see that only 200 of those were actually watched to a minute in. And the average video watch time was 14 seconds, which is actually really good for videos on social media, because of course people just scroll past. So you've got to remember to keep it interesting and to the point. And if you can get something to grab their attention in the first 10 seconds, then the more likely you're going to carry on listening. Carry on watching. So regarding social media, If you haven't seen the social media training by Dermot Burke, I think it was the second of the online training sessions. It was brilliant. I learned loads from it, and it's made a big difference to how I do social media now. So you can watch that on members.greenpay.org.uk. Now, video lengths for specific social media. Facebook, I found that if you keep it under 3 minutes, you can have videos as long as you like on Facebook, but under 3 minutes seems to be a good length. Twitter, you've got a maximum of 2 minutes and 20 seconds. If you've got any longer than that, then you have to trim it when you upload it. And finally, Instagram, 1 minute, and then it moves to IGTV. So you've got a 1 minute video. You can put longer videos on there, but after 1 minute, then you have to open IGTV to watch the rest of it, and you get a lot of drop off because fewer people will continue. Now, what about YouTube? That's obviously the daddy of internet video. You can just put your video on YouTube and link to it. This is handy for embedding them into your mailing list emails and putting them on your website. However, it is better to upload the video to Facebook and Twitter, as YouTube videos do not autoplay on Facebook and Twitter. People will scroll past them if they have to click something else, and it means fewer people will see your video. However, YouTube is really good for subtitles. We'll go more into subtitles in a sec, but I always upload my videos to YouTube, and then the CC at the bottom there is for closed captions and subtitles. So, why do you need to include subtitles? They take a lot of extra time, but that effort is very important for accessibility. A friend of mine is deaf, and she praised the accessibility of the videos because they all have subtitles on. It's really important. Also, unbelievably, about 80% of Facebook videos are watched with the sound off. So if you don't have subtitles, then people will just scroll past. And you can correct the odd word. So if you repeat yourself a couple of times during the audio, or you missed out a word or a name, you can add them in the subtitles in square brackets. Subtitles, however, are much easier to do on a computer or laptop because, of course, you've got a keyboard. Something that came from the social media training was this website, capwing.com. If you're just going to use one website, this is a great one because you upload your video or you link to it from YouTube, and then it will auto generate the subtitles, and then you can go in and correct them. Then you can create the video and then upload that to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and it's got the subtitles already on the video. So they're burned in or embedded. And Damon's social media training mentioned that, and it was a really good tip that I took from that. You can also use YouTube Studio. There is a good benefit to using YouTube Studio because you also, again, it also generates your subtitles. You can use it to correct any spelling mistakes and timing errors. And then you download what's called an SRT file. So once you've finished your subtitles, you can go in and download an SRT file and upload that onto Facebook. So when you're posting a video on Facebook, you upload the file. And now Facebook can also auto-generate, but you can't download that important subtitle file. If you're then making it for Instagram or Twitter, you can use the same subtitle file that you got from YouTube and just put that straight into capwing.com. The reason why you might not want to put it onto Facebook is because Facebook's quite clever, and it knows if somebody's watching a video with sound on or not. So it's optional subtitles. So if you're watching a video and your sound's on, then it doesn't display the subtitles. If your phone's on silent, then it does display them. Further tips. So when you upload a video to YouTube and Facebook in high definition, it takes a while for it to process and display it in high def. So if you upload it immediately and you watch it back and it's all pixely, that's because it's just got the standard definition version. So if you watch it back, if you give it a while, then it will switch to high def once it's finished processing. Good tip for this, on Facebook especially, is scheduling posts. If you upload your video and you don't want to publish it straight away, because people will just see the pixely version, if you schedule the post for later on, like in a couple of hours or something, or even the next day, then that will give you a chance it will give Facebook a chance to process it, and people will see the best quality video. Another important point is that video takes up a lot of memory on your phone. So if your phone's already full, you may need to make some room. If you've got an Android phone, some of them allow you to put an additional memory card in, which is handy. But of course, iPhones, you can change the memory inside them. There are a few accessories that are quite handy. I'll play the video and then I'll go through them.
Here is some extra equipment that may be useful for if you want to get a bit more serious about recording videos. First up, battery pack for your phone. Now, older smartphones, the batteries tend to go and run out quite quickly, so these are pretty much essential. If you don't have one already, it's worth investing in. Number two, this is a tripod grip for a smartphone. So you can put your smartphone in there, and then this is a standard tripod mount. If you've already got a camera tripod, then brilliant, you can put that on there. This is a mini tripod. So when combined with this, it gives you some stability when filming. There we go. Next up, for audio, this is a microphone. So this is an iPhone model, as it has a lightning connector in the bottom. You can get these that just have the 3.5mm jack that plug in. That goes in the bottom of the iPhone. Like that. And this tends to come with this windshield or dead cat. For filming outside, you pop that on, and then it reduces the wind noise, which is important. Obviously, this can be a bit of an investment, so it's only needed if you're definitely going to get into it.
So like I said earlier, the first thing I bought a couple of years ago was the iPhone mounts. They can be had for about £10 to £20. And you don't want to be investing a lot of money in something unless you've got a real interest in it. For me, I was like, oh, this is quite fun making videos. So over the years, I've built up some bits of kit. As I said at the start, this is very much a nice to have. Obviously, you don't want to be raiding your Green Party bank account for bits of kit when you could be spending that money on leaflets, which is much more important. This is just nice to have. The battery pack is about £10 to £20, depending on capacity. The tripod, again, is about £10 to £20. The tripods, the grip, battery packs, you can get them at Argos. But if you keep an eye on Marketplace on Facebook or eBay for bargains, that microphone itself was £45, but that was a bargain on eBay, but you can get cheaper models for much less. So editing your videos. There are loads of editing apps available. On iPhone, iMovie is free and easy to use. Just download it, give it a go, see how you get on. And Tom's going to do a bit on this shortly. For me, it wasn't quite as advanced as I needed, so I actually bought an application called LumaFusion, which is a bit more complicated, but I found it really easy to use. That was £28 on the App Store. But it doesn't involve a subscription, which a lot of them do. It's just one-off fee. And I learned how to use it through tutorial videos. All of the things we've talked about, there are some amazing tutorial videos on YouTube. So it's worth having a look. And finally, over to Tom. So Tom, can you take over the share?
Yes, I can. Okay, Hello, is that working?
It is.
So thank you for that, Tez. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, yeah. So some of this is repeating. Yeah, you can. There are apps, etc., to edit on your phone and things, or iPad is better. I think LumaFusion is sounds really good, and then the other two that I kind of looked up quickly. There's a lot of them have a subscription, as Des said. So if you're not doing it off your phone, you need to kind of get and you do want to edit, you need to work out how to get the footage from your phone to your computer, and you kind of do that either with using AirDrop or something similar, or you can use a USB cable or Bluetooth, etc. And then most software follows fairly similar guidelines. And I'm just going to kind of run through a few kind of editing tips, and then I'm going to do a kind of quick sort of like mock-up on iMovie. So when you're kind of editing, if you cut within the same shot or between two very similar shots, this can sometimes be a bit jarring. It can look a bit kind of messy. So one way around this is to, when you cut into the kind of same shot again, is to crop into it slightly closer so that it seems a little bit like it's a wider shot, a closer shot, a new shot. And the other thing you can do is shoot a cutaway of something else. And a cutaway is a shot of something other than yourself or the subject that you're filming that you can then use to put between shots to kind of hide the obvious cuts. If you are going to shoot, it's a really good, if you know you're going to edit, it's a really good idea to think about it while you're filming, so that you're kind of maybe preparing cutaway shots, for instance, or maybe trying out one or two angles, so that you can kind of like give yourself some stuff to work with when you get back home later on. And one other kind of like thing you can try is just recording a video with when nobody's talking, or recording sound when nobody's talking. So you just have kind of what's like the ambient sound of the scene, and that's called a wild track, and that can help you fill in any silences that you might have or joins. And getting kind of the good sound, as Dad said, really helps with how smooth it feels later on, because quite often you might have quite a sort of, you can even have quite a jarring cut, but if the sound feels seamless, then you won't really notice the visual side so much. So I'm just gonna stop that for 1 sec, just to actually, I'm gonna start it again. Bear with. I'm gonna show you a little bit of editing with iMovie now. So if I go here and load up iMovie, the first thing I can do is get something to, first thing I'll do actually is get something to edit. So if you don't have a camera phone, etc., but you do have a webcam, hopefully there's a way to record your webcam. So I'm going to use this with QuickTime. If I go File, New Movie Recording, and then, can you see that? And then you've got, you can record yourself. So I can record, hi, here I am. I'm going to do an awkward pause, which I'll cut out later. And then I'm going to film a cutaway of a plant. So I've got my nice plant beside me here, and we can bring that into the video later on. So now I can stop recording and just save that to my desktop. Now when I go into iMovie, create new, and then I have my project set up here, and there's a simple thing here for saying import media. And this is I can go to desktop, and then I can drop down here, awkward pause, which I'll cut out later. Find my awkward pause, and then you mark an in with an I. I'm going to do an awkward pause, which I'll cut out later. An O, which marks that out, and then you can just press delete. Here I am. And so you notice, I mean, it was quite subtle, but there was a kind of a slight. So I want you to must be in, and then crop to fill, which I click here, crop to fill, and then I choose which part of the shot I want to use, and I press enter, and then that's cropped in closer. And then I'm going to film a cutaway. So it's quite a crude way of sort of changing shot, but it sort of works. And the other way is to take the shot. Let me turn off my screen share. Oh. Is this going okay, Des? Okay. So if I've got my flower that I filmed on my phone. So if I click, oops. If I share that here, it should give me the option of going to AirDrop, which is there, that's me. And then that's pinged over to my computer. So then if I go back here, and then if you go AirDrop, it will go to your downloads. This is all very like Mac related, which I totally get. But it's every kind of platform has various similarities and discrepancies, but just to kind of like hopefully just doing it on one least kind of give some ideas of the workflow or possible ways in which tips for it. So if you go import media again, we can then go to our downloads here, and then it's there. And I think actually it's this one, I recorded one earlier. So we got import selected, and then it's there, and then we can just drag it down either on top of it. And then there's a little thing here that does the sound up and down if you want to do that. So here I am. And then I'm going to film a cutaway of a plant. So I've got my nice plant beside me here. And we can bring that into the video later on. So that's a very simple record. Hi, here I am. And obviously you can kind of refine all of that a lot more. If you kind of pull this back and forth, it trims it as you go. And you can see the sound wave here, which can help you kind of work out if somebody's talking or not. Hi, here I am. So I've got my nice plant beside me here. And we can bring that into the video later on. So that's just an incredibly crude way of cutting things together. And then if you wanted to kind of, the other thing you can do is if you go File, Import Media, and is you can bring in slides to your films, which I think is maybe one of the most important things, is you can almost just have an unedited shot, but then bring in a slide at the end. So, and if you use iMovie, it automatically puts it on this thing called Ken Burns, which means it zooms into it very slowly. So just switch that off by putting it on crop to fill here, or fit, I think. To run. So now and then that's a kind of, again, a very crude version of that. That's as much as I'll say about editing for now. It's quite a kind of broad thing to get into, but I think the main thing is just, if you are going to do it, there are lots of benefits to it. One of the big things is that you can bring in a visual element and graphics and branding, which can just give things a little bit of a kind of the official vibe. The last thing I want to talk about was just quickly talk about Instagram, which is the way that a lot of younger people interact with videos and pictures. And there are a few ways to post to Instagram. Firstly, you can post to your feed, which is this little button here if you open it. And the second one is you can post to your stories, which is down here. Now, both of these options will give you the choice either to take from your library, so a video you've already made, or to record straight from the camera. Now, if you choose a video from the library, if it's landscape, it will automatically crop it to square. So you can undo that by just pressing this funny little button here that I've got an arrow pointing to. Now, just to go to, once you're in there, you'll be able to trim it back and forth. It will give you the option to edit it, to trim it back and forth, and also to choose a cover picture for it. So it's worth if you're and the last thing is stories. So stories is a vertical format. So everything else we've been talking about has been landscape or maybe square, but stories is if I just show you Instagram quickly, is if we go here. So these funny things at the top here, these are stories, which are like these kind of I'll show you. They're these sort of posts which stay up for maximum 15 seconds and then change like a kind of slideshow. And they're vertical like that, and you can post stills to them, lots of different things, or you can post videos there. And as you can see, that they're often very good for having text and kind of just flipping through statistics or something like that, but also for video. And if you go to, I had it here, you can highlight them. So here, the green parties, I've highlighted a few that they put up earlier, and that means that they stay on Instagram for a while. Otherwise, they're gone within a day or so. But the one thing to mention is if you are making video for stories, is so you can make it vertical and then upload it, or you can just hold the record button down, and that will record it for as long as you're holding it down. So if you were kind of at a protest and you wanted to do a very kind of immediate thing about what was happening, and you wanted it to go to stories, which would kind of is sometimes what people click on first, you would hold it up and just like talk to the camera about what you were doing, and it would record for as long as you hold your thumb down, but it adds breaks every 15 seconds. So as you saw in the last thing, they kind of were slides that you would click through. It will record you talking, and then it will either automatically roll on to the next section, or somebody can click through to that slide. So it's a little bit kind of hard to explain. You kind of have to sort of watch it in action, and then you'll realize. But if you are going to record stuff for Instagram stories, it's worth bearing in mind, firstly, that it's the one time you need to have your phone the other way around, vertical, and also that you're going to be kind of having breaks sort of every 15 seconds. So it's, again, yeah, it is quite a strange format, but it is one that's worth exploring, just because of the impact it can have and the immediacy it can have, especially with a lot of younger people who maybe primarily interact with things via Instagram. And as Des said, also you can post to this Instagram TV, which is if you have longer videos, you can post them there and it will go. That's this kind of funny add-on app which also plays through Instagram, but you can put any length of videos there and they'll play vertically. I mean, landscape. Anyway, I think I've run out of my words. So I think that's it from my side. So if there's any questions for Des or myself, it would be great to have them now. We're going to run for another 20 minutes or so, and then if anybody wants to stay around, we'll hang around for a bit more.
So Larry asked a question about the consistency of Green Party logos and fonts and so on, that visual identity. Was there anything, making sure that it's consistent? Is there anything Des or Tom wants to say about that?
Yes, I've just posted the link in the chat to the Green Party's visual identity branding. That has a PDF on there which you can download the Green Party fonts, and also you've got the Green Party logos as well, which you can download as PNGs, which are usually can be transparent. And one thing I found that I've done is I've edited those PNGs with the standard Green Party logo and put the name of my local party in it, because obviously I've got the fonts to be able to do that, and it's got the colour scheme on there as well, like the specific colours that you can use. So you can do that in a paint app of your choice. Screen recording. Yes, I'll post a link to a guide to screen recording as well. I've got one in my PowerPoint, which I can advise you. And so basically you can, with the iPhone, you can screen record what's on there, and it will record anything you do on the screen and also the sound. You can do the same on Windows using, I think it's the Xbox game application, and I think on Mac on QuickTime, and there's a way of doing it on Android as well. I shall post that link now. While I'm finding that link, can you talk about the rule of thirds, Tom?
Oh, okay. Well, that's let me so that's kind of the idea that what is visually attractive. So generally, if you look at I'll see if I can find a picture, but I can't. So generally, if you're kind of bang in the middle, that sometimes can look a little bit jarring. Though other times, if you kind of shift yourself slightly to one side, and then you want your kind of like head somewhere kind of, if you did split this into grids, you want your head kind of like somewhere in this sort of like top part where you've got a nice kind of like slightly offset composition, and you've got your head with a little bit of headroom, but not too much. And so it's kind of like, feels like it's, I don't know, a sort of nice, balanced, natural looking composition. And if you start watching things on telly, you'll basically see that everybody's kind of doing it. Yeah, I think that, does that make sense in terms of rule of thirds, or have I messed it up, Des?
No, it's sort of, yeah, I've just posted a link as well, which to something that talks about the rule of thirds. I've got a link to composition as well, and it's kind of links in that it's where your eyes are drawn to. Yeah, so if you're looking down a road or something, that's sort of, you know, your eyes follow where it's going. And the thing with the rule of thirds is eye lines, as Tom said, it's important because you tend to look at people's eyes when you're talking to them, and so you want those sort of on the top third. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and if you're kind of, if you are positioned a bit off like this, generally you kind of like, in an ideal world, your eye line's kind of slightly going you know, that way to the center. That makes sense. Don't know if that does. But anyway, yeah, the eye lines is quite a thing that you kind of you don't really see it as unnatural until you kind of actually see it happening. So you need to kind of practice that one a bit, getting the eye lines feeling natural.
You've posted a link, Des, about screen recording. Did you want to quickly mention anything about it as well?
Yes. Well, I think, yeah, so that link, it hasn't got videos on it, but it has got how you screen record on all of the different devices. Apart from, I notice, we've had a couple of questions about Linux. But there will be instructions on how to do this on Linux somewhere out there. A lot of this stuff, again, is YouTube tutorial videos or guides. Yeah. We've had a question from Peter. It says, how do you put text over the video, not a transition, but over the actual image? Tom?
Well, yeah, it probably depends quite a lot what sort of software you're using. I mean, very quickly, if you're using Instagram stories, I think you can put, there's an option to put just text or links over it if you upload it straight to your phone, record it straight from your camera. So, though it's not going to have the set branding, etc. If you go into it, it really depends what software you're using, because they'll all have a kind of an alternative thing. If we kind of go back to the iMovie, there's just a simple thing here for titles, which will give you a sort of default title thing which you can then add text into, and you can change the font slightly as well. But that's kind of like, yeah, there, you know, so there should be something fairly similar. There should be a similar sort of thing in most softwares. Bring that into the video. That will kind of help you do that if that's what you want to do. But again, it's kind of annoyingly, it's just one of those things that does vary quite a bit from program to program. But by and large, that's kind of how it will work.
Any more questions?
I can't see any other questions just yet. So I just wanted to mention someone that a kind of real photography expert mentioned to me is about lighting, and to do with how important it is to see a little bit of light in people's eyes. And unfortunately, spectacles are a real problem because, you know, you get the reflections and it doesn't look so good. But to help people really feel a connection with a person in a photograph or in a video, it's really great to just see a little bit of light reflecting in their eyes. So if you can sort of arrange the person and the light source to make that work, it really just helps people feel that person really is human and attractive in some kind of weird psychological way. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. The other thing that can be useful for that, which I don't, is often there's a thing called that people have like bounce. So they have these funny things that unfurl, and it would just be a big white kind of circle that you can use to bounce light onto somebody's face or onto a subject. But you could even just do it with, you know, a mirror is a very cheap and easy way to do that. Or something else, anything kind of reflective or bright white. So if somebody isn't quite in the right position and you want to get that just a little bit extra light in at them, or maybe want to just like catch the light in their eyes, you can sometimes just take like a sheet of white paper or a mirror and just use that to angle the light at them, which again, you kind of need like maybe another person to do, but it's definitely something that it's quite a quick way to kind of get a sort of cheap and cheerful lighting effect by just using kind of what you have at hand.
Any more questions? I will just post then the link to the feedback form again, because it's really important for us to know what bits of this were useful, and especially what more you need, what you would like next. Because I'm aware often these kind of trainings really sort of, you practice it and then you realise what it is that you need to know next. So please do let us know how you get on.
Yeah, I certainly would reiterate that I think it's just very important to kind of to practice it, because then you'll work out kind of the real a lot of it from both Des and I is about just troubleshooting and problem solving yourself, and that way you kind of learn technical things, but also just like creative things. I mean, I've been doing it since I was a teenager, and it's still like those same kind of like practices and kind of like just working things out. It adds up. So that is definitely the way to kind of get confident with it.
Yeah, I'll reiterate that. I mean, as I said earlier, I only really started doing this at the end of last year for the general election, and because it was enjoyable and I found it fun, I look back at those videos now, and I've just made such a difference in like 6 months just from learning more about the software and about the techniques, and just sort of doing my own research. And like I kept saying, YouTube tutorials, they have been a godsend and really helpful. Yeah, I think it's been brilliant to have everybody here. This is actually the first time I've done this, so hopefully it came off all right.
Yeah, that's the same for me.
I wonder, I mean, if there's no sort of particular questions, I wonder about, if there's someone who really wants to technically go through a process again, whether it be useful to kind of do something live. But so if anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask a question that maybe isn't easy to put into a simple sentence in the chat box, then yeah, do go for it if you want to. Everyone's so satisfied.
Guess this is a good thing, right, Ellen? That means our training was, everybody's got everything they need now. Go on, Richard.
Yep. Could I just ask, as regards video content to just normal content that we post, is there much difference as regards to the take-up? Do you know how many more people will watch a video than just a normal photo or a block of text?
So with this was something I learned on the social media training, is that it's important there's like a triumvirate of like posts, of good posts to get a lot of engagement. There's videos, photos and links. If you can mix those up or have different varieties of those, then it does, like the Facebook algorithms especially really like that, and you'll get more people seeing them. So for instance, if you were to just post videos all the time, you wouldn't get the same engagement as you would with lots of different videos. This is how I know that I've done a couple of 5-minute videos that got minimal engagement, but the less than 3-minute ones did. If you go into your Facebook page and look at the insights on there, you'll see lots of lovely statistics about how many people actually clicked on things, how long people watched them, where the organic reach was, and you get some nice graphs and things as well. It's important to sort of, once you start putting information up there, then you you can sort of see what posts work best, what times to post things, all this kind of stuff. Especially if you can get things shared into local groups, that tends to put your engagement up massively.
Yeah, I was really aware of that when I was working as part of Ellie Chown's MEP team. We started to look at the insights from Facebook and the analytics from Twitter, and it was really clear again that most people do watch for 10 to 15 seconds. So Ellie started putting her main message in those first 10 seconds always, changing the script to bring just that main message to the very front every time, just so even if someone watched 10 seconds, they got it.
Yeah, just to reiterate, like I work on a lot of commercial stuff, and yeah, it's like do it in 5 seconds, and it's everybody's kind of trying to front load things, so it is a good try and make it exciting out of the gate.
Yeah, because of course on YouTube, when you get the adverts pop up, you immediately skip now, skip now, skip now. And I think it's 5 seconds or 10 seconds before you can skip usually. Anything else? Any other questions at all? Anything you want to ask? Just you've got us here, so now's the opportunity.
Just one more question.
Yes, go for it.
I've noticed by doing a few of these video chats that people who wear glasses do come across terribly with the glare. Mm-hmm. Would it be worth actually always not wearing glasses for videos, or tricking your public by having a second pair which has just not got lenses in, or wouldn't you go that far, or would you just put up with the fact that you've got glare everywhere?
Well, for me, I'm very short-sighted, so I can put contact lenses in and see, but if I was to take my glasses off right now, I can't really see anything. But yeah, this is definitely something for if there's a monitor in front of you. Obviously, if you're outside and you've got natural light, it's less of an issue. But yeah, it's not a bad tip, actually. Tom, you were going to say something?
No, just that's just a massive problem all the way up to kind of like the biggest films. It's like it's it just is the thing. The one thing again is like if you're going to have like a bounce, like I said, there's also the kind of opposite of that, which is called a flag, which is basically just a piece of black card. So it could be, again, if you've got somebody out there, you can just get them to like angle it so that you're can avoid any obvious to shade off any obvious bits of glare that might be hitting you. But trying to do that and then get the glint in your eye and have glasses is hard. But I guess you've got to kind of make the call on whether you want people to see your eyes at all. So but yeah, I think just having simple things like a bounce, or just like something you can bounce light off, or something you can shade yourself off with, if that's possible, is kind of quite a sort of quick and easy solution for some of those problems.
And I'm planning to start a long campaign as a candidate in the autumn, and I wear contact lenses some of the time, and I am planning just for all of my photos and all of my videos to have me with my contact lenses in. Yeah, because I think glasses do create a bit of a barrier. Yeah, and I hope it's not because I'm vain. Yeah.
Yeah, and just the other thing that well, Des mentioned it earlier, but like if you can learn by heart what you have to say in a video, that is so good. I know it's maybe a bit of an effort to kind of learn like a minute or so's worth of writing, but it makes such a big difference to how you're engaging with it. And in terms of like editing, whatever, the best thing in terms of editing to do is to make the kind of the footage engaging to begin with, and that means, you know, natural eye lines, relaxed talking, all of which is kind of hindered a bit if you're trying to kind of read something, or haven't practiced it enough. So learning it by heart is really key. I only say that because there was a green thing that I was helping out with, and they hadn't done that, and it was a bit problematic.
Yeah, it's so important to smile and be friendly. You know, especially on Instagram, because it's that more lifestyle focused thing. It's not a political broadcast system. So it's really important to be human and friendly and kind, and yeah, to really show emotion.
Yeah, AOC in Alexander Cortez in America, she's like the master at that on her Instagram and things like that. So it's quite good to just watch some of these people, or like vloggers, or to just sort of like see what that to see how their kind of delivery is, and pick up little tips like that, because like technically the stuff they're doing is very basic. Like they're 9 times out of 10 they're just talking to camera, but they're doing kind of just these things in terms of delivery and how they kind of unroll it across the platforms. That is what gives it the impact.
Here's a question for Tom. How important is it to get your content out on all the platforms at the same time? Should it be all in a oneer, or can you sort of stage stuff?
Well, I'm not really quite sure, because yeah, I don't. It's from what I kind of see, it's often staged a little bit. So they'll kind of, I guess, to spread the kind of impact a little bit. But yeah, it kind of, lots of people kind of do it in different ways. Yeah, off and they at least did have set times for putting everything out. So they put it out initially on YouTube, and then maybe a day or so later they'll put it on Twitter, maybe link back to the YouTube link, and then they'll put a social edit of it, so a sort of an edited version of the main film on Instagram, and then, you know, link back to that YouTube video. So it's kind of a lot of kind of sort of spreading out the impact, but going back and forth to one link. Because by and large, I've also noticed that when I started working, people were kind of using lots of different platforms for how their content was being viewed, or they might have their own video player within their website and things like that. And as things have gone on, everybody's just using YouTube, because that way they can, you know, that's the optimum way to get things kind of trending on YouTube, and to kind of like focus all their view count in one place, which then, you know, gets, you know, the more people who are watching, the more people it kind of gets pushed in front of by all the algorithms. So yeah, there are a lot of ways to skin a cat in that way, but what I see often is that kind of like that sort of back and forth of kind of cross posting, but going back to one video and also spreading it out a fair bit, or not crazy amount, but over a few days at least.
I think it's important to recognise where we are, though. You know, we've got to learn to walk first, probably, most local parties, and I can definitely see how it'd be good to embed a YouTube video in your local party website if your local party website's good, and recognise that linking back to that to Twitter will be really good for reaching local journalists and local campaigners, and then doing a Facebook post linked to it will be really good for just actually reaching your local residents. Yeah, and yeah, I think probably for most local parties, it's going to need to be pretty simple.
You just reminded me, that's something I had written down during my presentation, but I forgot to say, is I've got a really good relationship with my local newspaper and one of the journalists in particular, and then I can sort of feed them little bits of video and they will put them on their website as part of the article, which is really handy. And they seem to like that. They want video content as well. So if you can provide it for them, then it goes up.
Right, I think it might be time to call it a night.
I think we've done, yeah. Thanks everybody. Thank you very much to Tom. You've been amazing. And thank you to Helen as well.
Oh, thank you.
Please do fill in that feedback form, and cheerio.